And, well, we pull out the key knowledge for you.
And today, we're digging into a really interesting piece. It's an excerpt from Beneath the Fig and the Palm, a dialogue on responsibility and care.
Yeah, it sets quite a scene, doesn't it?
It really does. You've got this elderly Chinese sage uh, and a Muslim scholar. They're talking in a courtyard somewhere along the old Silk Road.
Hmm.
And the title, With the Fig and Palm Trees, it's quite symbolic, representing their deep cultural roots and wisdom.
Exactly. And our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is really to get a handle on their different views, but also where they overlap on something pretty fundamental.
Raising children.
Raising children, yeah.
Right.
Where does the responsibility lie? Is it all in the family? Or, does the state have a big role to play?
You want to explore these cultural perspectives, get a clear understanding.
Well, that gets sort of lost in the weeds, right?
Yeah.
Just the core ideas.
Precisely. So the conversation kicks off with the Chinese sage making an observation. He sees the strong focus on family in the scholar's culture. He respects it, but he also wonders, does that put too much strain on parents?
Ah, so he's questioning the balance from the start.
Right. He asks, basically, shouldn't the state be doing more to help out? It immediately flags that tension,
Yeah.
family responsibility versus state support.
That's a great starting point. It really sets up this balancing act that, well, societies everywhere are still grappling with.
Mm-hmm. And the Muslim scholar, he doesn't disagree about the family's importance. He calls it the cornerstone and soul of the nation, central.
There's a but, I imagine.
There is. He says, look, modern life, economic pressures, changing values, outside influences, these things are weakening those family ties.
Right. The world changes.
Exactly. So he argues the state can't just, stand by and watch. It needs to step in somehow.
Can you give us a feel for what those pressures might look like? In their context, I mean.
Sure. Think about maybe more people moving for work, separating families, or technology changing things, creating gaps between generations, perhaps.
Okay.
And just exposure to different ideas, different ways of life through, well, trade and interaction, that could challenge traditional values, too.
That helps paint the picture. And this leads the Chinese sage, to use a really nice analogy.
Yeah, the roots one.
If the roots are watered, the trunk and fruit will flourish. His worry is that if governments don't help parents teach things like patience, honor, duty.
Then the roots start to wither.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The family is like the root system of society, right? And it needs looking after. That's the key takeaway.
It is a powerful image. And the Muslim scholar, he picks up on this. He contrasts their view with what he sees as the Western approach.
Okay, how so?
He notes the Western focus on self-reliance, the sort of help yourself idea. He sees merit in it. Sure, maybe it sparks innovation, personal freedom, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
But he says in our societies, a child isn't like this isolated unit. They're part of a garden.
A garden?
Yeah, that needs tending by everyone. Family, elders, the whole community. Collective effort.
And then the Chinese sage jumps back in with a bit of a critique, doesn't he, following that thought?
He does. He's worried that some governments are starting to copy the West too much
Oh.
by pushing individualism, maybe focusing too much on, say, technology instead of supporting mothers, or valuing universities over the home as the first school.
Ah, so prioritizing the later stages over the foundation.
That seems to be his concern. Like, what's the point of fancy universities if the groundwork in the family isn't solid?
It really brings out a difference in what society values most, fundamentally.
It does. And the Muslim scholar expands on this interconnectedness idea. For them, individual success isn't just personal gain.
It's tied to others.
Deeply. To your responsibilities, to family, clan, even ancestors. This sense of belonging, of mutual obligation, it demands a certain kind of state.
Not just administrative.
No, not just rules and regs. It needs to be, as he puts it, nurturing, like the tribal elder or the great father.
Wow, that's a strong image.
It is. The state as an extension of that community care, almost like a parental figure for the society.
And the Chinese sage likes this idea. He picks up on it.
He fully agrees. He sees the state evolving from just a machine of regulation
To something more supportive.
yes, a caring hand, helping people throughout their lives. Childhood, marriage, tough times like unemployment, and old age too.
So it's a vision of support across the whole lifespan designed to strengthen families.
Exactly. And to really anchor this responsibility, the Muslim scholar brings in religion. He quotes the Prophet Muhammad.
What's the quote?
Each of you is a shepherd, and each of you is responsible for his flock.
Okay.
And he applies that directly to leaders. Rulers have responsibility for families, for guiding the youth. If families struggle alone, well, that's seen as a betrayal.
A betrayal of trust.
A deep, almost sacred trust.
Then the Chinese sage offers another contrast, more imagery.
Yeah, the forest versus the valley.
Walking alone in the forest. That's individualism.
That's how he frames it. Versus walking together through the valley, which is their communal way.
And he's saying they should be proud of that.
Very much so. Take pride in the communal spirit, he urges. Don't just try to copy the individualistic path. The core idea is valuing that collective well-being.
Makes sense. But the Muslim scholar wants to be clear about the state's role here, right? It's not about taking over,
Crucial point. He emphasizes it's not about replacing the family.
but supporting it.
Exactly. Protecting, empowering, continually supporting, helping the family be strong and resilient. An extension, not a replacement.
And how does their conversation wrap up?
It ends on a really hopeful shared note. Both of them express this wish, this hope, that one day children can look back and say,
Right.
thanks to our parents and our leaders, we were never alone.
Wow. That really ties it all together, the shared responsibility.
It powerfully does. Family and state working together.
And then there's that final thought from the narrator.
Ah, yes. Shifting the focus. Saying the real measure of a civilization isn't its buildings, its walls.
Right.
But how much care it gives its foundation. The first root, the family. It brings us right back to that core metaphor.
So wrapping up this deep dive then, we've journeyed through these ideas, seen the contrast, right? Individual focus versus community focus and raising kids, and what the state should do.
Definitely. But what's really striking, I think, is even with their different backgrounds, different traditions,
They find common ground.
they really do. They both see family as essential, and they see a vital role for a supportive state. They arrive at a shared understanding.
It certainly leaves you thinking.
It does. You know, considering everything they discussed, what does a truly supportive structure for families actually look like today in our world?
Yeah, how do you balance that? Individual growth, which has its benefits.
Or the strength you get from strong community bonds, especially when it comes to bringing up the next generation.
That's a big question. Something for all of us to mull over, maybe long after this conversation ends.